Hi boys and girls, Mr. Cier here. We're going to SketchUp and I wanted to show you some fresh ideas for your sculptures. So I'm starting with a clean page, but you will obviously have sculptures on your page. I'm going to go ahead and show you some new techniques that I didn't show you in former videos. Because I want you to be able to have very different sculptures from everybody else. So the more ways that you know how to use the tools, the better. Speaking of tools, the first thing we're going to go to is View, Tool Palettes, Large Tool Set. There's a couple tools in here that I really want you to check out. Others I'd like you to avoid. So if I don't teach you how to use the tool, try to stay away from it. And that really goes for here too. Specifically, this move tool is just going to distort your work in such a way that I'm not going to be able to grade it properly. And the same thing with this rotate tool. So if I'm not teaching you tools in the videos, I really want you to stay away from them. And if I see the tools being used in the video in your projects, like for example, if somebody's thing looked like this, I would know that they used a tool that I asked them not to use. I know that this kind of looks cool, but it's so warped that I can't tell what you did on purpose, like with intention, and what you did by accident. And I have to grade what what you can predict as a working geometric abstract shape. So this square in this case would actually receive a better grade than the warped one. Plus, it's going to reveal to me, or it's going to make me assume that you did not watch the video because you're not doing what it said, which is to use your geometric shape tools and the tools that I'm about to expose here. So first, I'm going to use a couple of my tools, like the 2-point arch, which you already know, and the square, just to come up with a relatively original shape to start with, because I'm going to do this new sculpture from scratch right now. I use the eraser tool to erase that line, by the way, just because I want this to be up. I don't want to do that though, because I don't want to reveal the inside of any of my sculptures. That also makes it look broken or incomplete. It's something that would lose you credit. I think I'll start with this. All right, so this is a pretty interesting shape that I'm going to use to start my sculpture. It's not complete yet, but I wanted to show you some new things. So I don't know if I've already showed you the offset tool, but I'm going to do an offset for this shape and rise this up. The next thing I'm going to do is turn my sculpture a little bit, and this is definitely new. I don't know if that offset tool was new, but if it is new, it basically makes a smaller version of any shape, and as long as when you use it, you don't cross the shape, like, let me Command Z that so you can see what I mean. You don't do this. It's pretty useful. You could still do this really, but sometimes it makes a mangled mess, in which case you might not want to use it. But I'm willing to do that much. All right, so this is the brand new part. I'm going to take my pencil tool and use it in a new way. I'm going to make an X by going exactly to the corners. And by the way, this has to be on a rectangular square shape that's proper, meaning not warped with the move tool. But being that this was a rectangular shape, I can now use my move tool. This is the only time I really want you to use it, to almost like you're pulling this up into 3D. All right, so now if I orbit, I've just created kind of like a weird shaped spike, okay? Now, if I do it from a rectangle, like I'm going to do it from up here on this rectangle too, if I do it in such a way that it's from a flat surface and not an angled one like this is, like a ramp, I could use the move tool. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see what's happening with the move tool when I pull this up. If I have it on a blue axis, that's responding to this blue axis here. So that means that that point is going directly up. Normally you want your points to go on one of the axes, but because this is a diagonal shape, it doesn't there, which is why it's not really a proper spike, whereas this looks pretty much like a pyramid. It is a proper spike. Okay. And if I did it on a square shape like this one, which I'm going to do now, it would also work. So another way to do it is to use your pencil tool on the side and look for the midpoint. The midpoint of any shape is always shown in blue. So if I trace on this edge here, it's also going to show a blue midpoint there. But I want it on a square or a rectangle so I could show you this specific thing again. A new way of making another kind of spike. All right, so here I'm looking for two midpoints. I'm connecting the midpoints. I'm going to use my move tool and move it out to make, and I'm going to look for the green axis because as you can see, that's the axis that I'm parallel to, and then I'm going to click it. So I just made a different kind of spike. So my sculpture is already looking pretty cool now. I don't really like where this spike landed, so although I can't make it perfect without the use of axes, I'm going to see if I can make it go a little bit more towards the center. Okay, so that's not bad. It actually looks pretty cool. It looks even now, so I think that, in my opinion, it looks better than it did. So for grading, this way it doesn't look as warped as it did before. All right, so another thing you could do that's different with your pencil tool is you can basically cut with it. So I just made a line here that'll allow me to cut one side lower than the other, or one side higher than the other. It won't let me go down because it doesn't know where to end it. In this case, it's ending it where it stopped here. Okay, that shape is stopped, and that's why I'm able to move this up and not move this up. So now we're going to take the pencil tool, and we're going to create what I'm going to call a path. So this is going to be, I'm not trying to create a shape now. I'm actually drawing, I'm drawing a line that is in different planes, so it's not coplanar, and I'm in the middle of it, but I want to press escape here for a second because I want to come up from this point specifically. So I'm on the blue axis, by the way, which says that we're going up, and now I can do this. So I did not try and make a functional shape. I'm going to press escape again, so I remove myself from the pencil tool and orbit so you can see what I'm doing. I made this weird wire path. Now, otherwise, I've told you that that's like leaves, it's kind of like, it looks messy now. It doesn't look complete because this shape is not in 3D. It's not even in 2D. So formally, I told you not to do this, but I'm doing it with a reason, and I'm going to show you that reason now. I'm going to take one of my shape tools. It could be any one. I'm going to do it with a polygon, and I'm going to click once and change that polygon to a 5-sided polygon. So I'm typing 5S now, return. I'm going to make it the way that I want it to be, and I'm going to zoom in here, and I want to erase this line. There's a reason why. I'll tell you in a sec. All right, so now I'm going to use this new tool, which is called the Follow Me tool. It's one of my favorite tools because it's just so fun. There's so much you could do with this tool. And I'm going to make my shape follow along the path that I made. So I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit, but I just wanted you to see a close-up of what I'm doing first. Now that I have that, hopefully I'll be able to still click it while I'm zoomed out and follow it all the way to the end of my path, which goes back inside the 3D shape. All right, so there you go. All right, so now if I zoom in, I made it go around in a circle. That was an accident, but it looks pretty cool. So in this case, I'm going to leave it. Oh, but I see a problem down here. So let's see if I can fix it, because I don't want to leave any weird white lines. So let's see if I can fix that problem. When I have a hole like this, I can close it up by using my pencil tool and just dragging a line across the hole. Now, to make it a shape, I want to erase that extra line, and then hopefully I'll be able to pull that line along my path. Usually this doesn't happen, by the way. So I noticed that this happened. So what I already know that the reason is when I made this. So I'm going to seal up a line here, and that seals the whole thing. If that didn't work, I might have to do one over here, or across the area that's exposed, and then I can do it again over here, and it solves the problem. I could even erase the line after the fact, and nothing else will change. If you do see something change, it's better to have the lines than to have exposed areas. All right. I'm going to make a very small arch over here. This is the first point of my arch. This is the second point. And I'm just going to make it so it doesn't go outside the lines of my rectangle, but it stays inside. And I've made that shape now. So now I want to show you a totally cool and different way to use the Follow Me tool to follow this shape. You're basically push-pulling it, but you're using the Follow Me tool to do it. And you're going to do it around. You're telling it to go around. I'm slowly, literally going around the perimeter here. And if I I end exactly where I started, it'll cut off and do that. So that's another really cool feature you could use to round out some of your edges if you want while making your sculptures. I'm going to do one more here, and in this case, I'm going to do it with very small steps. So I'm zooming in so I can draw very, very small, and I'm going to draw something that looks like steps on this edge. Now if I use my Follow Me tool, I'm going to zoom out a little bit and move around so hopefully you can see the best of this. Now over here, by the way, it's going to cause a problem. I'm already aware of that because I'm thinking ahead, but I just want you to see what it looks like. So we'll see if that problem ends up being good or bad. So you have to go around the perimeter of the shape that you want to go, and it's probably going to make me stop here. So let's see what happens if I stop and orbit around so I can see what I did. All right, it only let me go up to here so far. It will let me go further, but you can see that it basically drew those steps. Obviously, you couldn't see what I was doing, so now I'm going to push it through again. I want to do it on a square really quick just to show you. It works best on square surfaces. So I want to do one really, do one more. So I'm going to do a square surface here. This will be much easier to show you than wrapping around this entire complex object. I'm going to go in and draw like a kind of wacky line now. And so it's like a, I guess it's shaped like a lightning bolt. It doesn't look like it's coplanar though, so I'm going to check to make sure it is. It is. And then I'm going to try and use my tool to do this one more way. Oh, it's having trouble. So sometimes it's going to try and want to follow your other paths. So you have to be careful to make sure you're following the path you want. And then you get something that looks like this. Pop this out. That looks pretty awesome. All right, so I also mentioned that I would show you how to make proper holes. So what I meant was that holes aren't going to show in the interior of your piece. They're just going to be literally holes in your piece. So this one didn't work. So sometimes that happens. I might have to take my selection tool. I have to press delete for that. So once I select it, I should be able to press delete. There you go. I'll do it from this side. That should probably work. Good. All right. So there you go. That's a hole that went through my piece but doesn't expose the inner areas. So I think that that should give you a little bit more tools for your toolbox, and hopefully you can come up with some awesome sculptures. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're enjoying this SketchUp project, and please leave appropriate feedback. Take care, Titans.